So first of all, I want to say welcome and thank you for being here today. We are honored to have you all here. My name is Jessica McCarthy. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Lumiata. I'll be your mistress of ceremonies today. First, I just want to say that we hope everyone is staying safe and staying healthy and staying mentally healthy and taking care of yourselves, your families, your loved ones, and your friends. We are all in this together, as you can see from the variety of backgrounds here of our speakers. We're unbelievably excited to kick off the Lumiata COVID-19 Global AI Hackathon today. We don't want to waste any time. We want to jump right in. There are two portions to this meeting. The first portion will last about half hour. It's the overview. The second portion of the meeting will be for participants only, and it will focus much more on the support and services that our partners are providing, so more of a workshop environment for the participants to know what's available to them throughout the hackathon. So for this first portion, we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to turn it over to our CEO, Dilawer Syed. Dilawer, it's all you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you everybody again for joining us. I know some of you are dialing in from around the world, so we appreciate this may be a bit odd hour. Once again, I hope that you and your family and loved ones and colleagues are in good health, are safe, and very importantly, in good spirits. You know, this is obviously a trying time. It's a challenging time, but if there's any solace, we are all in this together, almost everywhere in the world. So again, our best wishes to everybody. And again, we thank you for participating. Let me, first of all, thank our sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. They are also Lumiata investors, and we really greatly appreciate their financial support in helping us put this together. And they've been awesome partners. And I want to thank our judges, our partners, Vinod Khosla, who's been our very early backer of Lumiata from the very get-go, has also joined us, and we are really privileged to have him be as part of the judging panel for this hackathon. And I see I don't know if Catherine from Wharton, my alma mater, is joined as well. You know, she leads the social impact initiative there. It's great to have her there. I've worked with the California Governor's Office. I run entrepreneurship task force for California, so I understand that our CIO at the California Health and Human Services Department is also with us as a judge. So when you look at this group, there is a very, very diverse group of folks, who come from different backgrounds, who I got to work with at White House, as a former US CTO in the Obama administration, and the breadth of experiences. And we certainly hope that will, create an environment for judging where we have broad perspective, but also we get to sort of, impart your wisdom to participants as you engage with them over the next couple of weeks. So again, thank you for your time and for being there with us. And I hope you will also find this whole interaction with innovators from around the world useful and helpful. So Lumiata, many of you are familiar with, but just to give you overall a quick background, we are an AI for healthcare company. One of the early companies that have pioneered the use of AI for a breadth of use cases, both for health plans and providers. And when this crisis hit, we got together the team and we explored, well, how can we be a part of the solution with this pandemic? And we believe that the moment is right, the time is right, that a lot of the innovative muscle that we have built as a data science company, as an AI company, we can put that to use, whether it is to take care of people when it comes to healthcare or to manage the impact on health systems. So that's one area, and we are working on building solutions as we speak that will hopefully help a lot of healthcare companies manage the impact of this pandemic, which unfortunately is here to stay for some time, and there will be waves of infection. That's one area in which we are looking to help. And the second is, frankly, this, which is to enable a platform for innovation, to use our networks, to use the network of our great backers and luminaries that we have on this call, and encourage innovation from around the world. This is a global problem. This is not an American issue alone. And it's going to take us some time before we can come around to solving this. So we're certainly hoping that over the next course of week, we have hundreds of participants who are joining in. We'll create solutions that, quite frankly, help us turn a corner in our fight as a global community when it comes to this pandemic. So again, we greatly appreciate everybody's being on board, and certainly hope that we can drive some innovation that can make a big dent in our fight against coronavirus pandemic. So with this, let me pass it on to Miguel, our CTO. He's been brain trust behind this effort, and Miguel will walk you through what some of the more details about the hackathon. Miguel, over to you.
Thank you, Dilaur. I am Miguel Alvarado, CTO for Lumiata. Thank you very much for being here today. We're finally here. We've been awaiting this day every day this week with anxiety and excitement. So we are an AI company serving healthcare. And because of that, we feel responsible in trying to do something more and trying to really move our resources and really contribute in a meaningful way to what's happening today. We believe strongly, very, very strongly, that AI can be instrumental in not only helping today with the current crisis, but also in preventing the chaos that has happened in a future situation. We strongly believe in that. And the question is, how can AI help? Well, that is why we're here. That's why we organize this hackathon. This is a call to action, bringing together software engineers, data scientists, product managers, and user interface designers included, and figure out how we can answer that question. So welcome to the hackathon. And let me go through some of the criteria that we're going to be using to judge the submissions for the hackathon. There's a few different points that our judges are going to be looking at. So the first one is innovation. So we want to make sure that the submissions have some element that is trying to break from the status quo in any way possible, from a machine learning perspective or from the use cases that it's trying to realize. We want to make sure that there's impact, that there is high impact, either in the number of people using the solution, the number of lives that is saving, the amount of money that it could potentially save. We want to make sure that there is high impact. We want to make sure that it's scalable. We want to make sure that if we put the solution in production, that it's going to scale to n number of hospitals, to n number of insurance companies, to a number of users potentially worldwide. We want to make sure that it's also feasible. This is an interesting balance, right? We're asking you to break the status quo, but at the same time, we're asking you to make sure that whatever you come up with has some element of feasibility. These are the things that our judges are going to be looking at. It may not be obvious in your solution how each one of these is expressed. So we're asking you to also submit a write-up. Your write-up should address some of these things. We're also recommending you to attach a short-form video into your submission. That way, it'll give you a voice in front of the judges to explain why your solution is the best one and why it should be elected. We are going to be selecting two winners. So it'll be a first place and a second place. And beyond just giving a money award, which should be a nice incentive, we're hoping that the best incentive is that we're committing to help you productionalize these ideas and realize them with the help of our customers and partners. We are committing to, via Lumiata, our network and the Lumiata platform, find a place for these ideas and bring them to life in production. And to give you an example, just a couple of people in our network that can help with things like this is, from one side, we have Ashima. She's Global Director of Healthcare Solutions at Google Cloud. So that's one channel we have. And on the other side, we have Chris Goff. He comes from Intel Health. So this is just two examples of people we have in our network that can potentially help us bring these solutions to life. I'm going to pass it over to Jessica.
Great. Thanks, Miguel. So I want to talk a little bit about our judges for just a second. We have an incredible panel of judges, as you can see here, and almost all of them are able to attend today. I want to acknowledge a couple of them today. Bill Lucia, who's the Chairman, President, and CEO of HMS, which is a leading healthcare analytics and technology organization, is with us. We are honored to have him as a judge, and my hope is that over the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to hear from all of our judges. We also have Severance McLaughlin. Unfortunately, Severance couldn't be here today, but he's the managing director of DeLorean Artificial Intelligence and one of our partners at Capgemini. Severance has a fantastic health, data science, and artificial intelligence background, and we're lucky to have him on the panel as well. We're going to be setting up some time, as I said, throughout the hackathon for you to hear from all of our judges. Today, a few of our judges are going to share some of their thoughts about the hackathon. We're going to start with Vinod Khosla, founder of Khosla Ventures, an early investor in Lumiata, as Delauer said. Vinod is a visionary and a leader in healthcare innovation. We're so honored to have him, not just as a judge, but to join us here today. And Vinod, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Frankly, you've heard about the problem and the opportunity in the context. I have a fairly unique perspective. We have a really, really big problem, maybe one of the larger problems we face. But the optimist in me always says you only get big opportunities when you have big problems. Solving a small problem never creates a big opportunity. So every big problem to me looks like a big opportunity to make a contribution, make a difference, and get all kinds of rewards, whether they're psychological rewards of solving a big problem or financial rewards. So I would view this for this group as a real opportunity to find a solution. You know, so far we've done a small piece of the problem, which is flattened the curve for hospitals. But when I sit here, it's clear to me in the next year or two, I'm either going to get the coronavirus or I'm going to get a vaccine. There is no other way out of this for all of us. So flattening the curve was really meeting the needs of hospitals and hospital ICUs and health system capacity. It didn't do anything for the fact that there's probably 5 billion or more people on the planet that are going to get the virus. And the vast majority of them haven't had it. And if they don't get the virus, it's because they got a vaccine. So there is this massive opportunity. And because it's a complex problem, to me, the complex problem means it's a very high dimensionality problem. And whenever a problem is high dimensionality, AI is always a big part of the solution. So I think this group is unique to contribute to solutions, and there's many dimensions, whether it's getting to a vaccine, getting to the virus, getting how to manage the virus, any part of it is an AI-based solution. And so there's lots of room for creativity in this webinar among the participants. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from the group and seeing what solutions this group comes up with. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Vinod. That's fantastic. The next judge I want to ask to speak is Lisa Sunnunen. I'm smiling because I'm a huge admirer of hers. She's Manat's digital and technology leader, as well as the leader of the venture capital and emerging companies practice at Manat. I've known Lisa for years, and I've always admired her unique perspective. Lisa, would you mind saying a few words to our audience? While I introduce our next judge, and then maybe you can see if we can get Lisa back on, because I'd really love to have her be able to speak. So I'm going to move over and start with our next one, which is Anish Chopra. So Anish is the president of Care Journey, as Delauer mentioned.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and to the Lumiata team for organizing this important opportunity. One is a little bit of a sobering assessment so far. The reality on the ground is that we're flying a bit blind about the COVID population. The Centers for Disease Control have published several papers on what we know today about the COVID population. And as they note in both of their most recent publications, we are largely inadequate in the information that's needed to answer basic questions. Are COVID patients hospitalized? And if so, with what frequency? What are their underlying clinical conditions? I think the March 28th report that showed something on the order of 90% of all reported cases lacked any clinical context about the patient at all is a sobering reminder that as we manage this crisis in the manner that Vinod outlined, the idea that we're either going to get the disease or we're going to have a vaccine, there are a number of decisions that are going to be made along the way, specifically around how to best prepare and manage if an individual is COVID positive. It is critical that this community come together to do what it can, not only to sort of supplement, if you will, the data gaps that exist, but to hopefully find insights that may be harder to find using traditional techniques. During my time as Chief Technology Officer, President Obama often said that we should tap into the expertise of the American people to help solve problems. And in the current administration, my successor, Michael Kratsios, had taken that same spirit by working collaboratively with of information, Jessica, as part of the resource list, I believe, that we're going to make available in this hackathon. It is critical that we tap into the expertise of this community to mine as much of that information as possible to figure out the clinical characteristics. What do we know about patients that end up on ventilators and who need more advanced treatment options? And what are the characteristics that we could use to better prepare to establish guidelines or best practices as this permeates more and more of the communities around the country? For the policymakers, they might want to learn how we can make judgments about opening up the economy, neighborhood by neighborhood, community by community, and to see whether we've got the surge capacity such that if in fact there is another flare, we can have confidence that the healthcare ecosystem is ready. These questions of planning, of decisions that are made in the public sector can be benefited greatly from work that's done by stakeholders participating in this hackathon. And we're hopeful that by tapping into the expertise of this broader population, we're going to help present those information need it most. Thank you, Jessica, for the opportunity. I look forward to seeing what the community presents, and hopefully we can collective response through this crisis.
Awesome. Thanks, Anish. I think that was extraordinarily well put. Few more judges. Let me just check. Miguel, any luck with Lisa?
I think she said no.
Lisa, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
Excellent. All right. Well, again, I'll start by saying I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Very supportive of what you're doing, and I think it's a great initiative. You know, as I think about what's needed for people, I would say something that isn't already being done. You know, there's a lot of folks focused on testing, a lot of folks focused on the serology work, on the tracing, on the like. There's a lot of people who are being left out of thinking and planning in this whole ordeal. And so if you're going to develop a solution that's going to have large impact, I would try to think outside the usual Silicon Valley box and think about people of color, kids and teens who are being forgotten, college kids who are completely struggling right now, especially the ones who are supposed to graduate or go off to college and don't know what's happening, uninsured people, of which there are now going to be many, many millions more than there were before we started this. Gig economy workers who are struggling with, you know, are they going to be able to work? And then also the people who are going to suffer pretty extreme side effects post-treatment. We know already there are cardiovascular and possibly cognitive side effects that are long-standing after folks have been hospitalized. so ways that we can help people recover fully, not just leave the hospital, but fully recover to the extent possible is really important. So I would encourage people to think very expansively and not focus too much on the usual suspects.
Awesome. That's great. And for those of you that don't follow Lisa, I highly suggested Venture Valkyrie is the name of her newsletter. And just recently she suggested that someone needs to invent something he would absolutely buy. So I absolutely, I highly recommend that newsletter. So I really appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. I want to welcome Juling Hu to the panel as well. She's the founder and CTO of Question AI and the author of The Evolution of Artificial Intelligence. We are unbelievably excited to have this AI expert on our panel. Juling, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I'm glad to be here to be part of the panelists. I want to, first of all, welcome everyone to this global hackathon to provide your knowledge and the technique to help fight this virus. We all know that by now there are more than 2 million people are infected and many people died. My hometown is Wuhan, so I've been monitoring this situation since day one, since actually early December. So if you look at the data set, now there are 6 data sets available on this website, but there are many more deeper patterns you can discover. So I hope all of you, when you work on this problem, apply the machine learning, unsupervised learning method, discover whatever pattern you can find, because there are many questions needs to be answered. For example, how the virus spread, how did it go from one country to another country, from one state to another state. Secondly is how would the healthcare resource impact the treatment, and thirdly, what are the effective treatments. So by discovering all these important issues, you can help to help the healthcare professionals and the government to fight this virus. With better data, you can create a solution that will have impact. So what we are looking for here as a judge, I'm looking for the impact issue, how your question actually answered that can help decision maker, help our healthcare provider to fight this virus. Secondly, the innovation part, how what are the interesting patterns you discovered that nobody else has found so far? Because we heard many news, we heard many things, but many are not verified. If you combine that with data, with the pattern, that will be very helpful. So I basically congratulate all of you to jump in to contribute to your knowledge and your energy here, even though it's only 2 months. But the will continue after this. I think with all of us here working together, we are going to fight against this virus.
Thanks, Junling. I think we might have had a few audio issues, so we might come back to you and just do some write-ups so everyone can make sure we hear what you said. And the fact that you've been following the virus from day one and you are originally from Wuhan, we send our deepest thoughts and sympathies for those in your hometown that are still dealing with it and have suffered from it. And we value the fact that you're here with your perspective to help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to welcome Edward Frankel to our to say a few words. Miguel, do we have Edward on audio now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great.
Yes,
so,
I'm here.
Oh, great. So Edward is a professor of mathematics at the University of California at Berkeley. He's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the author of Love and Math, which has got to be one of the best titles ever. And a good friend of our CTO, Miguel Alvarado. Edward, I want to thank you for joining us today. Please share your thoughts.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled to be part of this hackathon. and to be on a panel of judges with such distinguished people from the world of technology, entrepreneurs, and academics and scientists. I think it's really wonderful that you guys, Lumiata, and that you're organizing this. It's definitely much needed. Just a couple of points I want to make. One is that I think that these events kind of change, at least for me, the perspective about how big issues in our lives are solved or addressed. So we have seen, I think, in the last couple of months, that our governments are kind of lagging, and sort of we have seen inaptitude and incompetence and inadequacy and so on. And I'm not saying that to blame anybody, but just as I think that many of us see that more clearly now, that there's certain things that we in the past could reasonably expect to be handled just through the usual government channels. It doesn't work this way. So that means that there is more responsibility, there is more that we can do. For instance, as scientists and technology people, we have a much bigger responsibility than in this current climate, in the current situation, to take things into our own hands. And so to me, this is a great way to achieve that, by sort of throwing this challenge to the world and say, please come up with new ideas, new solutions to address this paramount issues of our time but there are many issues connected to this perhaps. And when we find solutions related to the current crisis, those same solutions we may well be able to apply in the future. So that's the first point, that's sort of a wake-up call for me personally. So, and this is why I kind of agreed to do this. And other circumstances, maybe I would be kind of lazy and say, I don't want to do this. But I feel like all of us have to contribute more than before. That's the first point. The second point, well, I'm a mathematician, so I'm a Berkeley professor of mathematics. And so I have been following AI. It's not exactly my area of expertise, but I'm obviously very interested in the subject. And so for me, it's also an opportunity to encourage folks to submit new ideas. So when we talk about healthcare, obviously AI has a big role to play. But what is AI? So you ask different people, you get different answers. But basically, for all practical purposes, these days, when people say AI, they really mean something very narrow, which is neural networks, standard algorithms of machine learning, neural networks, which are great and very powerful and very efficient. But we definitely have to go beyond that. This is not a panacea for everything, no matter what various people will tell you. And so even, Jeffrey Hinton, the man who played a big role in development of these algorithms, backpropagation, and neural networks, and so on, he is on record saying that we have to go beyond. And so to me, I think that it's a great opportunity. I hope, and I'm glad that actually in the announcement of the hackathon, it is actually stated explicitly that people are encouraged to submit new ideas that go beyond those standard models, the models of neural networks and machine learning. There got to be people out there who have been thinking about that. Well, this is your opportunity to make your ideas known. So please send these ideas to us. Send us bold, original, new ideas. We are very interested in seeing that. So on a personal note, even though my subject in mathematics is different, so I work on the interface of mathematics, quantum physics. But when I was an undergraduate in Moscow, back in the late 1980s, I actually collaborated with medical doctors, on various healthcare issues, mostly connected to urology, and I co-authored papers and so on. And so it is kind of rekindling my interest too in the subject. So I'm kind of so on many levels, I'm happy to be part of this group, and I'm really looking forward to new and exciting ideas.
Excellent. Thank you, Edward. That's fantastic. I'm glad we were able to rekindle your interest in
Yes.
healthcare. The last judge that I'm going to ask to speak today is Adam Dundro, who is the Chief Information Officer for the California Health and Human Services Agency. We were lucky enough to meet Adam through DeLauer's work with the state, and we're so pleased to have his public agency and and his policy experience on the judging panel. Adam, would you say a few words for our audience?
Sure, thank you. I really appreciate it and really excited to be a part of this. And I can't thank all the participants enough for stepping forward. I think what's been really unique about this current crisis is that it touches really everyone globally and all in different ways. For government, when we're usually dealing with crises, we're dealing regionally, we're dealing with a certain subset of focus. And this touches everything. It's not just COVID health, it's mental health, right? It's housing, it's physical abuse, it's how are we going to economically recover from this? It touches so many things. And so when the governor's office brought this forward to me, I said, I want to be a part of this because something like this brings together diversity. And that's what we need here. We need diversity of thought. We need diverse perspectives. We need the different ways that all of you see the problems. We recognize in government that we operate in a certain way. And particularly in the world of AI, it's a different way of thinking that we don't have those expertise. And so I really believe that all of you have the chance to look at things in a different way than other people have been looking at it and find ways to break these things wide open just simply by those diversity of perspectives you bring. So I thank you all for doing that. And what I'd really encourage you to do is as you look at all of this data, at all these sources that you're looking at, really step back and think about who are you trying to help? Are you trying to help the decision makers make those decisions? Are you trying to help doctors who are providing care? Are you trying to help the essential workers be able to do their jobs better? Or even making information available to the public so they can make better decisions and be a part of the solution? And I think if you take that perspective and work backwards from that, I think you'll find that you can really make a difference, whether that be globally or a particular region or a specific population. I'm excited to be a part of it. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to seeing what everyone brings.
Great. Thank you, Adam. And as I said, with so many phenomenal judges, I wish we could hear from all of them today, but we're going to make sure all of them get a chance to address you and share their thinking throughout this event. I want to now turn it back to Miguel to share a few more details about the event before we conclude this first portion and move into the technology workshop. So Miguel, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. So I just want to walk you through more or less the steps that we're going to go through so that you know what to expect and specific dates. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here are the key dates to consider. So we're kicking off today. However, we're not going to close registrations today. We're going to leave registrations open till the very end just to see who else we can get. There may be people that come in the middle and still be able to submit something meaningful. So we're going to leave registrations open, but they'll close on May 1st, which is the same date in which we will close the submissions. Then after that, we will begin the judging process. The judging process will consist of downloading all of the different submissions, running them, make sure that they run and there's something meaningful in there, make sure that they comply to the criteria one way or another. And then the judges will have judging sheets and they will go through a few different points around the criteria, and they're going to give a score to every criteria element depending on what they see in the submission. After that, we will pick the one and then the second winners. And on May 8th, we will have an event similar to this one that we're experiencing via Zoom. We'll have our award ceremony, and we will demonstrate the couple winners. And we may actually show a couple other submissions depending on what we get that may get an honorable mention. We, Lumiata, as well, we're participating in the event. We can't necessarily win because that would be a little strange. But who knows what our team will come up with, and we may show some of that as well. If we can go to the next slide, please. So these are our partners that we got to help us out with the event. So we have technology partners that are contributing significantly. We have Google Cloud, who is contributing not only with credits. We have 50 codes. We have 50 codes for 50 different people to get Google Cloud credits. They are also bringing a bunch of data sources already ingested in BigQuery, ready to be used for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And lastly, they're going to have office hours in our Slack channel. So their customer-facing engineers have gathered volunteers to help us out, and they're going to be in the Google Cloud Slack channel that we have in our workspace. We will be broadcasting the office hours so you know when to expect to have that help. Then we have Snowflake. Snowflake made available the star schema data set, which has a lot of interesting data for healthcare. So also reach out to them and figure out how to use that data. Ascen.io loaded up a lot of the healthcare data sets in their platform as well. Rockset and Sigma are two technologies that can hook up to some of these other technologies as well. We are going to talk way more about these technologies in our micro workshop section right after all this. We're going to continue with workshops so that each one of these people can present more details around their technology. Now, these are some of the resources that we're sharing with you. We're not limited to these resources, but these can get you up and running faster. So we have gathered 17 different data sources and 2 code repositories and 3 visualizations. And some of these data sources, while the count is 1, when you go in there, there's a lot of subsets in there. So I strongly recommend to look at the document that we've posted that has the gathered collection of data sources that would bring in as a contribution to the hackathon. And it goes without saying that if there are additional data sources that are not here and you think are useful, by all means, bring them to the hackathon and feel free to use them. You are not limited to only these data sources that we have in here. And one of the last things I'd like to mention is please use the Slack channel. Use Slack as a strong resource. We'll have our technology partners there. We have one gentleman, Neil, who's here joining us as a science advisor. Neil is an MD as well, so he can help answer some medical questions that you may have. And of course, you have Lumiata. A lot of us will be active in the Slack channels. We can answer machine learning questions if we can answer them, depending on what you're trying to do. We'll answer healthcare questions from a payer perspective, from a provider perspective, and just questions around the hackathon itself. Also, if you need help trying to form a team, I know that some of you are coming in as individuals looking for a team, please reach out to us in the Slack channels. And if you're having a little hurdle forming your team, we can help you out with that as well.
Great. Thanks, Miguel. So as he said, we're going to go into the second portion of our meeting and adjourn the first portion of our meeting. Our judges are going to sign off. We will hear from and talk to them again. Thanks, everyone. Thanks all the judges for joining us. Take care. Have a great weekend.